They thought she was just another mafia wife, disposable, weak, 6 months pregnant and alone. They were wrong. Because when you betray a Moretti queen, you don't just answer to her. You answer to the king who would burn the world to ashes for her. Valentina Carter never imagined her fairy tale marriage to Italian mafia. Don Alessandro Moretti would turn into a nightmare of deception. Carrying his child and believing in their love, she's blindsided when his inner circle, including his own blood, orchestrates a plot to eliminate her and the heir she carries. But they underestimated two things: Valentina's will to survive and Alessandro's capacity for vengeance. What follows is a reckoning that will reshape the entire criminal underworld. If you're ready to hear the entire story, every twist, every heart-stopping moment, every secret revealed, hit that subscribe button right now. And here's the thing, drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from, because tomorrow, I'm bringing you another story that's just as wild, just as unbelievable as this one. Trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. The crystal chandelier caught the afternoon light, scattering rainbow fragments across the ivory silk drapes Valentina had chosen 6 months ago when Alessandro first told her she was carrying his heir. She smoothed her hand over the swell of her belly, watching the baby kick against her, palm through the emerald green dress that had become her armor in this gilded cage. 2 years of marriage to the most powerful Italian mafia don in New York. And she still marveled at how easily beauty could conceal brutality. The caterers will arrive at 4, she murmured to herself, checking the guest list for tomorrow's baby shower one final time. Carmela had insisted on inviting half of Brooklyn's Italian families, transforming what Valentina envisioned as an intimate gathering into a political display. But that was the price of loving Alessandro Moretti. Every moment of joy became a negotiation, every celebration a statement of power. The mansion felt too large with Alessandro away in Sicily, handling what he'd called family business with that particular coldness in his voice that meant someone would die. She'd learned not to ask questions, to accept the blood money that bought her designer clothes and fresh flowers, to ignore the screams she sometimes heard from the basement when Alessandro's men brought problems home. Valentina descended the curved staircase, her hand trailing along the marble banister when voices stopped her cold. The library door stood slightly ajar, and through it came Carmela's sharp Italian accent, the one she used when she didn't want the American wife to understand. But Valentina had been taking lessons, secret sessions with an online tutor, preparing to surprise Alessandro when he returned. "Marco, basta. We cannot wait any longer." Carmela's voice carried the weight of command. "Alessandro returns in 3 days. The American problem must be solved before the bastard is born." Valentina's breath caught in her throat. Her hand instinctively covered her stomach, protecting the life growing inside her. She pressed herself against the wall, heart hammering so hard she feared they would hear it. "The vitamins are prepared, Mama Carmela." Marco's voice, smooth and oily, the cousin Alessandro trusted with his territories. "Tonight she'll start bleeding. A tragic miscarriage, such things happen. Then we introduce Rosa's child as the true heir. No one will question Italian blood." "And if she survives?" Carmela asked, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer. "The clinic is arranged. Dr. Russo owes you us favors. An emergency procedure, complications from the miscarriage. She'll go to sleep and never wake up. Alessandro will mourn his unfaithful American wife who tried to trap him with another man's child. And Rosa, sweet, loyal Rosa, will be there to comfort him with his real son." The world tilted. Valentina gripped the banister so hard her knuckles went white. 2 years of trying to earn Carmela's approval, of learning to cook Sicilian recipes, of attending Mass every Sunday at the family church. 2 years of believing Alessandro's fierce protectiveness meant she was safe. 2 years of lies. "What about Enzo?" Marco continued. "He's loyal to her. Enzo will do as he's told or join her," Carmela said dismissively. "Family first, always. Alessandro will understand when we explain how she played him, how she trapped our boy with fake tears and an American whore's tricks. He'll thank us for removing the stain from the Moretti name." Valentina backed away slowly, each step measured and silent, the way Alessandro had once taught her to move through the house when his enemies were near. But she'd never imagined the enemies would be family. She'd never imagined she'd be the target. In her bedroom, their bedroom with Alessandro's cologne still clinging to the sheets, she locked the door with shaking hands. Her prenatal vitamins sat on the nightstand, the bottle she'd taken from religiously every morning. She picked it up, examined the seal. It looked intact, but Marco had resources, money, access to everything in this house. The baby kicked hard, as if sensing her fear. "I know, sweet one," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Mama knows. And Mama's going to protect you." She had no phone. Alessandro controlled all communications, said it was for her safety. She had no car keys. Enzo drove her everywhere. She had no money of her own. Alessandro provided everything, drowning her in luxury while quietly cutting every cord that could have meant freedom. The golden cage had become a trap, and she'd walked into it willingly, blinded by love and the dangerous charisma of a man who killed without hesitation. But they'd made one mistake. They'd underestimated what a mother would do to save her child. If this story resonated with you, then hit that subscribe button right now. Chapter 2. Blood Doesn't Lie. Valentina flushed the prenatal vitamins down the toilet, watching the small pink pills swirl and disappear. She'd replaced them with calcium supplements from the pharmacy down the street, pills she'd hidden in her makeup bag during one of her supervised shopping trips with Carmela 3 months ago. Insurance, she'd thought then, though she hadn't known why she needed it. Now she knew. Some part of her had always known she wasn't safe. That night, she took the calcium pills and waited. Dinner was brought to her room by Maria, the housekeeper who'd been with the Moretti family for 30 years and whose loyalty to Carmela was absolute. The older woman watched as Valentina took her vitamins with water, her dark eyes sharp and assessing. "Signora sleeps well tonight, yes?" Maria said, her English thick with accent. "Tomorrow is big day. Baby shower." "Yes," Valentina managed, forcing a smile. "I'm very tired." "Good. Rest. Everything will be different soon." The way Maria said it, like a promise or a threat, made Valentina's skin crawl. At midnight, the cramps started, not the violent bleeding Marco had planned, but enough pain to be convincing. Valentina had bitten her own tongue until it bled, smeared the blood on her nightgown, and screamed for help. The hospital was a blur of fluorescent lights and urgent Italian. Dr. Russo appeared immediately, his face a mask of concern that didn't reach his eyes. He tried to separate her from the nurses, insisting on a private examination room. But Valentina had clung to the youngest nurse's hand and refused to let go. "Please," she'd begged in perfect Italian, the language she'd hidden like a weapon. "I'm scared. Don't leave me alone." The nurse, barely 20 with kind eyes, had stayed, and Dr. Russo had been forced to perform an actual examination under supervision. The baby's heartbeat filled the room, strong and steady, and Valentina had wept with relief. That's when Rosa arrived. She swept into the emergency room like she owned it, her own belly round and prominent. Beneath a designer dress, her face a picture of concerned devastation. Behind her came Carmela and Marco, their expressions carefully neutral. "Alessandro's wife," Rosa said, her voice carrying through the curtained area. "I'm so sorry you're going through this. I know exactly how difficult pregnancy can be." "Who are you?" Valentina asked, though dread was already pooling in her stomach. Rosa moved closer, placed a manicured hand on the bed rail. "I'm Rosa Salvatore. Alessandro and I have known each other since childhood. Our families have been close for years." The implication hung in the air like poison. "Alessandro would want you to know the truth," Rosa continued, pulling papers from her purse with rehearsed precision. "I'm 6 months pregnant. With his child. We've been together for 3 years, even during your marriage. I have the medical records, the DNA evidence already. Prepared. Your marriage was a mistake, a temporary lapse while he was away from home. But blood calls to blood, and Italian blood deserves to inherit the Moretti name." The room tilted. Valentina stared at the documents Rosa thrust forward, medical records showing a pregnancy timeline that matched her own, lab results with Alessandro's name, Photographs of Rosa and Alessandro together at family gatherings. Everything looked official, convincing, damning. "You're lying," Valentina whispered, but her voice sounded weak even to her own ears. "Am the first?" Rosa's smile was sharp as a knife. "Ask his mother. Ask Marco. Ask anyone in this family who Alessandro was always meant to marry." Carmela stepped forward, her face carved from stone. "Alessandro made a mistake with you, Valentina. An American distraction. But his duty is to his blood, to his legacy. Rosa carries the true heir. You—" She gestured dismissively at Valentina's belly. "You carry a problem that must be resolved." "The baby is Alessandro's," Valentina insisted, her hand protective over her stomach. "I've never been with anyone else. Never—" "That's not what the family will believe," Marco said quietly, speaking for the first time. "Not when Rosa has proof and you have only your word. Not when Alessandro's mother testifies that you were seen with other men. Not when the DNA test we've already arranged shows the child isn't a Moretti." The nurse beside Valentina had gone pale, clearly understanding she'd stumbled into something dangerous. She backed away, and Valentina felt the last of her protection slip through her fingers. Dr. Russo appeared with papers on a clipboard. "Mrs. Moretti is experiencing complications from stress and possible placental abruption. I recommend an emergency procedure to protect her health." "No," Valentina said, but her voice was lost in the sudden flurry of activity. "It's for your own good," Carmela said, her voice almost gentle. "You're bleeding, in pain. The baby may not survive anyway. Why suffer? Why drag Alessandro through the scandal of your infidelity? Sign the papers, accept the generous settlement we're offering, and go home to America. Live your life. Forget this ever happened." "And if I don't?" Valentina asked, though she already knew. Rosa leaned close, her breath hot against Valentina's ear. "Then you don't leave this hospital alive. And neither does your bastard." The words were spoken so softly that only Valentina heard them, but they carried the weight of absolute certainty. They left her alone then, locked in a private room with a guard at the door. Dr. Russo had sedated her for her own good, but Valentina had learned to fake unconsciousness during her 2 years of observing Alessandro's world. She kept her breathing steady, her eyes closed, and waited. At 3 a.m, Enzo appeared. Alessandro's driver, the man who'd taught her Italian curse words and snuck her real pizza when Carmela insisted she eat only organic salads. He moved like a shadow, disabled the guard with practiced efficiency, and lifted Valentina from the bed. "We have 5 minutes before they realize you're gone," he whispered. "Can you walk?" "Yes," she lied, and forced her drugged body to move. In the service elevator, Enzo finally spoke. "Marco ordered me to dispose of your body after the procedure. Dump you in the Hudson, make it look like suicide. But I have daughters, Signora. I have granddaughters. I can't—" His voice broke. "Why are you helping me?" Valentina asked through tears. "Because Alessandro would kill everyone in this family if he knew what they planned. And because you're the only one who ever asked me about my family, who remembered my daughter's name, who treated me like a person instead of furniture." He pressed cash and a cell phone into her hands. "There's a car 3 blocks east. Keys in the visor. Drive to Boston. Your sister Mia, I did research. Call her. Don't trust anyone else. Alessandro is being lied to. They'll tell him you ran away with a lover, took money from his accounts, betrayed him. They'll show him Rosa's baby and tell him it's his. By the time he learns the truth, if he ever does, you'll be dead or disappeared." Enzo's face was grim. "Run, Valentina. Run and don't look back." She ran. Chapter 3. The Exile. The burner phone rang at dawn. Valentina, parked in a rest-stop bathroom 40 miles outside the city, nearly dropped it in the sink. Only one person had this number. "Val?" Mia's voice was sharp, wary. They hadn't spoken in 3 years, not since Valentina had chosen Alessandro over her sister's warnings. "What the hell is going on?" "Some Italian guy called my club, said you were in trouble." "I need help." Valentina's voice cracked. "They tried to kill me. To kill the baby. I don't have anywhere else to go." The silence stretched long enough that Valentina thought the connection had dropped. "Then text me your location. Don't move. And Val? If this is some Moretti trick, if you're bait to draw me out, I swear I'll— It's not, Valentina whispered. I promise. It's just me. Just me and the baby, and I don't know what else to do. Mia found her 2 hours later, pulling up in a black SUV with tinted windows and 2 men, who looked like they'd graduated from the same violence academy as Alessandro's soldiers. Her older sister had changed. Harder edges, colder eyes, expensive clothes that screamed money and danger. Jesus Christ, Val. Mia pulled her into a fierce hug. You look like hell. They poisoned my vitamins, tried to force an abortion. Alessandro's cousin and his mother, Valentina couldn't finish. The reality was too monstrous to speak aloud. Get in, Mia commanded. We'll talk when you're safe. Safe turned out to be a penthouse in Boston's financial district. All steel and glass and security systems that would make a bank jealous. Mia's world had clearly evolved since her sister had last seen it. No more small-time club management. This was serious money, serious power. You're working for the Irish, Valentina said, recognizing the accent of one of the guards. Working with? Mia corrected. Turns out I have a talent for negotiation and finance. The Callahans appreciated that. Now I run their legal operations and some of the less legal ones. We have a mutual understanding with most families. She poured whiskey for herself, water for Valentina. Except the Morettis. Alessandro's been expanding into Irish territory for years. We're not exactly friends. Will they use me to get to him? Valentina's hand went to her belly protectively. No, Mia said firmly. Because you're my sister, and I made it very clear that anyone who touches you answers to me. But Val, I need to understand what happened. From the beginning, Valentina told her everything. The overheard conversation, the poisoned vitamins, Rosa's claims, the hospital, Enzo's rescue. With each detail, Mia's expression grew darker. Rosa Salvatore, Mia murmured, pulling up files on her laptop. Daughter of Carlo Salvatore, capo in Alessandro's organization. Engaged to some soldier 3 years ago, but it fell through. She's been seen at Moretti events, but never as Alessandro's date. This pregnancy, though, she clicked through photos. That's real. She's showing same timeline as you. Could the baby be Alessandro's? The question hurt to ask, but Valentina had to know. Doubtful. Alessandro Moretti is many things. A killer, a tyrant, a man who burns businesses to the ground when someone shorts him on protection money. But he's also obsessive. When he married you, my contacts say he cut off every other woman completely. Wouldn't even look at his old mistresses. You became his singular focus. Mia pulled up more files, which actually made him more dangerous. Love makes men like him unhinged. Then, whose baby is Rosa carrying? Valentina asked. Mia's fingers flew across the keyboard. Let me make some calls. I have people inside the Moretti organization, ones Alessandro doesn't know about. If there's a conspiracy, there will be money trails. There's always money. While Mia worked, Valentina showered and changed into borrowed clothes. In the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Dark circles under her eyes, hollow. Cheeks, the swell of her pregnancy somehow both a protection and a target. The baby kicked, strong and insistent, as if reminding her why she'd fought so hard. Found something? Mia called out. Large cash withdrawals from Marco Castellano's accounts over the past year. Payments to Dr. Russo, to Rosa, to a genetics lab that specializes in forged paternity. Tests. And here, she turned the laptop around, fertility clinic records. Rosa was artificially inseminated 6 months ago. Want to guess who the sperm donor was? Marco, Valentina breathed. Marco, Mia confirmed. He's the father. This whole thing is a setup to get you out and Rosa in. But why? What does Marco gain? Valentina thought about the cousin Alessandro trusted, the underboss who managed territories and money. Power. If Rosa's baby becomes the heir, if I'm gone and Alessandro believes his child is with her, Marco controls the next generation. He controls the future of the family. And probably the present, Mia added. Let me check something. More typing. More files appearing on screen. Holy shit. Val, Marco's been embezzling from Alessandro's operations for 18 months. Millions. Tens of millions. The accountants are scheduled to audit the books next month. Alessandro ordered it before he left for Italy. Marco needed you gone before that audit. Needed Rosa installed as the grieving widow-to-be who'd support Marco when Alessandro discovered the theft. Or maybe he planned to kill Alessandro too, Valentina said, the pieces falling into horrible place. Make it look like a rival family. Rosa becomes the widow, Marco becomes the Don, the baby becomes a puppet heir. You need to warn him, Mia said. He won't believe me. They'll have already filled his head with lies. I'm the unfaithful American wife who ran away. Rosa is the loyal Italian mother of his child. Carmela will confirm it. Marco will have evidence, and Alessandro. Valentina's voice broke. Alessandro will hate me. So we get proof, Mia said. Real proof. Documents, recordings, witnesses. We build a case that even Alessandro can't ignore. And while we're doing that, you learn to protect yourself. Because if Alessandro doesn't believe you, if he sides with his family, you'll need to survive on your own. I don't know how, Valentina admitted. I don't know anything about this world except what Alessandro. Let me see. Mia smiled. And it was sharp and dangerous. Then it's time you learned. Welcome to the family business, little sister. Let's turn you into someone even the Morettis will fear. Chapter 4. Ghost in the Machine. 3 weeks in Boston, and Valentina Carter Moretti had become someone else entirely. The soft, trusting wife who'd arranged flower arrangements and attended charity galas was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd learned to shoot a 9mm, forge documents, and hack into encrypted databases using techniques. Mia's tech specialist taught her between bouts of morning sickness. You're a natural, Connor Callahan said, watching Valentina disassemble and reassemble her weapon in under a minute. The Irish mob boss's nephew had become her unlikely instructor, teaching her the skills Alessandro had always insisted she'd never need. Scary natural, actually. Remind me not to piss you off. Too late, Valentina murmured, checking the chamber. Everyone who ever underestimated me has already done that. The baby, 7 months now, growing stronger every day, kicked her ribs as if in agreement. She'd started thinking of the child as her partner in this, her reason for becoming hard where she'd once been soft. Mia burst into the training room, laptop in hand. Got him. Got Marco cold. They'd spent 3 weeks building the case, following money trails that wound through offshore accounts and shell corporations. Mia's hackers had breached Marco's private files, finding not just evidence of embezzlement, but something far worse. He's been selling Moretti territory information to the Bratva, Mia explained, pulling up encrypted emails. Names, locations, shipment schedules, everything Alessandro's Russian enemies would need to dismantle his empire. Marco wasn't just stealing money, he was staging a coup. Why? Valentina asked, though she was starting to understand the depth of Marco's betrayal. Because Alessandro never wanted him as underboss. He inherited the position through his father, but Alessandro's been slowly moving him out, replacing him with more loyal soldiers. Marco saw the writing on the wall. He decided if he couldn't rule the Moretti family legitimately, he'd destroy it and build his own empire from the ashes. Valentina studied the files, her mind racing. Rosa's baby. That was never about installing Marco as a regent. It was about keeping Alessandro distracted while the Bratva made their move. Once Alessandro's empire fell, Marco would step in as the new power, claim he saved what was left, and Rosa's child would legitimize his claim to the Moretti name. And you, Mia added quietly, you were always going to die, because you're the only one carrying Alessandro's actual heir. Marco couldn't risk that truth coming out. The weight of it settled over Valentina like ice water. Not just betrayal, but calculated genocide of Alessandro's true bloodline. Does Alessandro know I'm alive? No, Mia said. My sources say he returned from Italy 4 days ago. They told him you ran away with 50 million from his accounts, that you'd been having an affair with one of his soldiers. They killed the guy and made it look like you ordered it. Rosa is living in your house, playing the devoted mother-to-be. Alessandro's mother swears Rosa's child is his. He believes them, He believes I betrayed him, Valentina whispered. The pain of it was physical, a tearing in her chest worse than any of Marco's poison. Val, Mia said gently, he's not looking for you, he's erasing you. Every photo, every mention of your name. My sources say he gets violent when anyone brings you up. He's mourning you like you died, but the mourning is mixed with rage. If you go back now, he'll kill me, Valentina finished. I know. Connor cleared his throat. Or, we use that. Use his anger. Both women turned to him. Explain, Mia demanded. Alessandro thinks Valentina is a ghost, a traitor who destroyed him. But we have proof that Marco is the real traitor. What if Valentina becomes the ghost who saves him? What if we feed Alessandro information anonymously, piece by piece, leading him to Marco's betrayal? He'll tear Marco apart. And while he's doing that, Valentina builds her own power base. I don't want power, Valentina said. I want my husband back. I want my baby to know their father. Then you need leverage, Connor replied. Because right now, Alessandro has been poisoned against you. Marco has evidence, witnesses, his mother's word. What do you have? The truth, Valentina said. The truth isn't enough in this world. You need power. You need to be someone Alessandro can't dismiss or destroy. You need to be his equal. Connor pulled up a map of the eastern seaboard. The Irish, the Italians, the Russians, we all operate in the same space. Mia has connections. You have information about Moretti operations that could be valuable to the right people. Not to destroy Alessandro, he added quickly, seeing Valentina's expression, but to protect yourself, to build alliances that make you untouchable. You want me to become a criminal, Valentina said flatly. I want you to become a queen, Mia corrected. Not Alessandro's queen, your own. So that when this is over, when the truth comes out, you're standing on your own foundation, not dependent on his mercy or his belief in you. Equal to him in every way that matters in this world. Valentina looked down at her swollen belly, at the weapon in her hands, at the evidence of betrayal spread across Mia's laptop. The woman she'd been, the art curator who believed in love and happy endings, had died in that hospital. But the woman she was becoming could survive anything. Teach me, she said. Teach me everything. Over the next 4 weeks, Valentina transformed. Mia introduced her to the families. The Irish, the Polish, even some Chinese triads. As Alessandro's estranged wife, she had value, information, connections, legitimacy. She brokered deals, negotiated territories, and proved she had her husband. This strategic mind, even if she'd never been allowed to use it. She also began her campaign against Marco. Anonymous tips to Alessandro's most loyal soldiers, pointing them toward discrepancies in accounts. Encrypted messages to Alessandro himself, signed only with a ghost who remembers. Evidence of Marco's meetings with the Bratva, delivered to Alessandro's underbosses. She became a phantom, striking at Marco's power base while building her own, and Alessandro, grieving and furious and bent on revenge for betrayals he didn't fully understand yet, began to hunt. Not for Valentina. He believed her gone forever, but for the traitors in his midst. For Marco. For anyone who'd played him for a fool. He's getting close, Mia reported one evening. Arrested 3 of Marco's men yesterday. They talked before he killed them. He knows about the embezzlement now. Good, Valentina said, cleaning her weapon with practiced efficiency. 8 months pregnant, and she could still outshoot most of Connor's men. Let him burn it all down. And when he's done, when Marco is dead and the truth comes out about Rose's baby, you walk back into his life like the queen you've become, Mia finished. Val, are you sure about this? Alessandro might never forgive you for disappearing, even if he learns why you did it. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Valentina replied. I'm taking what's mine. My husband, my name, my place in that family, and if Alessandro can't accept that I'm not the fragile thing he married, if he can't see me as an equal, then you walk away, Mia said. Then I walk away, Valentina agreed. But I walk away with my child, my power, and my life. Never again will I be disposable. The baby kicked hard, as if sealing the promise. In less than a month, Valentina would give birth. And shortly after that, Alessandro Moretti would discover that the woman he mourned was very much alive, and far more dangerous than the wife he'd lost. Chapter 5. The Dawn's Reckoning. Alessandro Moretti stood in what had been Valentina's closet, surrounded by empty hangers and the ghost of her perfume. 3 weeks since his return from Sicily, and he still couldn't reconcile. The woman he'd loved with the traitor everyone swore she'd been. "You're torturing yourself," his mother said from the doorway. "She's gone, Alessandro. Let her go." "Where's her jewelry?" he asked, ignoring her. "The pieces I gave her. The emerald necklace from our anniversary. She took it all when she ran," Carmela replied smoothly. "Mercenary to the end." But Alessandro had already opened the hidden safe behind the mirror, the one only he and Valentina knew about. Inside sat every piece he'd ever given her. Diamonds, emeralds, the simple gold band from their wedding. She'd left behind millions in gems, but supposedly stolen 50 million in cash. "Madre," he said quietly, "you're lying to me." Carmela's face went white. "Alessandro, get out." His voice was cold enough to freeze blood. "And send Marco to me. Now." His mother fled. Alessandro locked the closet door and pulled out his phone. For 3 weeks he'd been receiving messages from a blocked number, a ghost who remembers. At first he'd thought they were from Valentina, taunting him. But the information had been too specific, too devastating. Account numbers where Marco had hidden stolen money. Photos of Marco meeting with Bratva bosses. Evidence of a conspiracy that ran deeper than his marriage. The latest message had come that morning: "Check the clinic. Room 347. The night she disappeared, Alessandro had sent his most trusted soldier to investigate. What Enzo had found made Alessandro's blood run cold. Now, waiting in his office, Alessandro assembled the pieces. Valentina's wedding ring, found by one of his cleaning crew in the medical waste of Dr. Russo's clinic, covered in blood. Security footage Enzo had obtained through his own channels, showing Valentina being forcibly brought to a private room, Marco and Carmela in attendance, Dr. Russo preparing equipment for an abortion. And the final, damning piece, Enzo's testimony, given with shaking hands, about the orders he'd been given to dispose of Valentina's body in the Hudson. "I couldn't do it, Don Moretti." Enzo had wept. "She was carrying your child, your true child. I helped her escape instead. I gave her money, told her to run. I betrayed your family to save your blood." Alessandro had stared at the man who'd been his driver for 15 years. "Where is she?" "I don't know. Boston, maybe. Her sister. I told her to disappear completely. To never come back because they would kill her." Enzo had fallen to his knees. "If you need to kill me for the betrayal, I understand. But know that I saved your heir." Alessandro had pulled the older man to his feet instead. "You saved my wife. You're the only one who stayed loyal when my own blood turned traitor. You'll be rewarded, Enzo. But first..." Now Marco entered the office, his expression carefully neutral. "You wanted to see me, cousin?" "Sit," Alessandro commanded. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed one to Marco. "We need to talk about the future of this family." Marco relaxed slightly, accepting the drink. "Of course. With the American whore gone, we can focus on what matters. Rosa's child will be a strong heir." Alessandro moved faster than thought, drawing his weapon and pressing it to Marco's temple. "That child isn't mine." Marco froze. "Alessandro, what?" "DNA test. Real one, not the forgery you arranged. Rosa's baby is yours. Congratulations, cousin. You're going to be a father." Alessandro's voice was conversational, pleasant, terrifying. "Now tell me why you tried to murder my wife and my actual child." "I don't know what you..." Alessandro fired a shot past Marco's head, the bullet embedding in the wall. "Try again." The story came out in pieces, Alessandro dragging each truth from Marco like extracting teeth. The embezzlement. The conspiracy with the Bratva. The plan to stage a coup. Rosa's pregnancy as a distraction. Carmela's involvement. Her belief that an Italian daughter-in-law was worth any betrayal. "Where's my wife?" Alessandro asked when Marco had finished. "I don't know," Marco gasped. "We thought she was dead. Enzo was supposed to..." Enzo saved her, which means Valentina is alive somewhere, carrying my child, believing I abandoned her, believing I chose your lies over her truth." Alessandro pulled back the hammer on his weapon. "You didn't just betray me, Marco. You made me betray her?" "Alessandro, we're family." "You stopped being family when you touched what was mine," Alessandro said. "But I'm not going to kill you." "Not yet." He made 3 phone calls. The first brought his most loyal soldiers to the office. The second summoned his mother. The third went to the Bratva bosses Marco had been conspiring with, inviting them to a meeting to discuss new leadership in the Moretti family. When they arrived, Russians expecting to negotiate with a weakened Alessandro, Carmela thinking she'd been summoned to support her son, Rosa brought under guard. Alessandro had them all assembled in the warehouse where he conducted his darkest business. "I want to tell you all a story," Alessandro said, his voice echoing in the cavernous space, "about a man who was fool enough to trust his family, who believed that blood meant loyalty, who thought his wife's love was the betrayal when it was actually the only real thing in his world." He laid out the evidence methodically. Account statements showing Marco's theft, photos of meetings with Russians, medical records proving Rosa's baby wasn't Alessandro's, and finally, security footage from the clinic, showing exactly what had been planned for Valentina. "You see," Alessandro continued, "I've spent 3 weeks mourning my wife, hating her, planning what I'd do if I ever found her, and none of it was kind. But my wife didn't betray me. She ran. Because my family tried to murder her and our child. She ran because the people I trusted most in this world proved they'd rather see her dead than see an American woman carry the Moretti name." He turned to Carmela. "Madre, you conspired to kill your own grandchild." "It was for the family," Carmela insisted, "for tradition, for—" "You're exiled," Alessandro said, "stripped of your name, your money, your place. You'll live, but you'll live as a ghost. No one in this organization will speak to you, help you, or acknowledge you exist. You wanted the American gone. Now you're gone instead. To Rosa, you're carrying a child. For that reason alone, you'll be allowed to give birth. But that baby will never carry the Moretti name. Marco's surname maybe, if there's anything left of him. You'll live in obscurity, and if you ever speak my wife's name again, I'll reconsider my mercy. To the Bratva bosses, you thought you could use Marco to destroy me. Instead, I'm going to use you to send a message. Go back to your organization. Tell them what happens when someone targets the Moretti family. Tell them what happens when someone touches my wife." He shot both Russians between the eyes before they could respond. Their bodies hit the floor as Alessandro's soldiers moved to dispose of them. Finally, he turned to Marco. His cousin, his underboss, his Judas. "The Bratva wanted to destroy the Moretti Empire," Alessandro said softly. "I'm going to show them what destruction really looks like. Every business they own in this city, I'm burning to the ground. Every soldier they have, I'm killing or turning. Every dollar they've hidden, I'm taking. And you, Marco, you're going to help me." "Alessandro, please." "No," Alessandro said. "You don't get mercy. You get a choice. Help me destroy the organization you sold us to, and you'll die quickly when it's done. Refuse, and I'll keep you alive for years, in pain, watching everything you loved burn." Marco helped. For 2 weeks, Alessandro waged war on the Bratva's New York operations with Marco as his unwilling guide. Shipments were intercepted, warehouses burned, soldiers executed in their homes. The message was clear: touch what's mine, and I'll erase you from existence. But through it all, Alessandro searched for Valentina. He'd sent men to Boston, to every city within 1,000 miles. He'd used every contact, every favor owed, every thread of power he possessed. His wife was out there, alive, carrying his child, and he wouldn't rest until he found her. What he didn't know was that Valentina was watching every move. That the ghost who remembers who'd been feeding him information was his wife, transformed into someone who no longer needed his protection. That when they finally reunited, it wouldn't be the broken woman begging for mercy that Alessandro expected. It would be a queen, coming to reclaim her throne. Chapter 6. Scorched Earth. The night Alessandro found Dr. Russo was the night the last of his mercy died. The doctor had fled to Atlantic City, thinking distance would save him. He was wrong. "Please," Russo begged, tied to a chair in an abandoned casino. "I was just following orders. Marco paid me." Carmela insisted. "I didn't want to hurt her. You were going to cut my child out of my wife and throw them both away like garbage," Alessandro said, his voice empty of emotion. He'd moved past rage into something colder, more absolute. "Tell me what I want to know, and I'll make it quick." Russo talked about Marco's plan, about the poisoned vitamins, about the orders to make Valentina's death look like suicide, and finally, about the one thing that made Alessandro's hands shake with renewed fury. "She was awake," Russo whispered, "when we brought her to the procedure room. The sedation hadn't taken fully. She knew what we were going to do. She was terrified and she kept saying your name, begging us to wait until you got back, swearing the baby was yours." His voice broke. "And we did it anyway. We would have done it. If Enzo hadn't—" Alessandro pulled the trigger. Russo's body slumped forward, and Alessandro walked away without looking back. He returned to New York with blood on his hands and a single driving purpose: find Valentina. But his wife had become a ghost in truth. Every lead ended in nothing. Every contact came up empty. It was as if she'd been erased from existence. Don Moretti, one of his soldiers, reported, "We found something. Not a location, but—" He handed over a tablet showing financial transactions. "Someone's been moving through the criminal underworld, making connections with Irish, Polish, even some Chinese operations. Building alliances. The signature on all the deals is the same. Ghost." Alessandro studied the records. Whoever Ghost was, they were good. Better than good. They knew things about his organization that only insiders would know, and they were using that information to broker power with his rivals. Not to destroy him, he realized, but to create balance. Every deal Ghost made somehow benefited Moretti interests in the long term, even as it built separate power structures. "It's her," he said softly. "It's Valentina." His soldier looked skeptical. "Boss, your wife was an art curator. She doesn't know this world. My wife survived my family trying to kill her while pregnant and built an empire in hiding," Alessandro corrected. "She knows this world better than I gave her credit for." Pride warred with desperation in his chest. "Find Ghost. Find every deal they've made, every person they've talked to. I want to know where my wife has been and what she's become." The investigation revealed a Valentina that Alessandro barely recognized. She'd trained with Irish enforcers, learned weapons, strategy, negotiation. She'd used her sister's connections to build legitimacy in the underworld, and she'd done it without his name or his protection. She'd become powerful in her own right. "She doesn't need you anymore," his new underboss observed. "Whatever you had before—" "I betrayed her," Alessandro said. "I believed lies over her truth. I let my family try to murder her. She has every reason to hate me, but she's still my wife, and that's still my child. I'm getting them back. And if she doesn't want to come back?" Alessandro's expression went cold. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving I deserve her. But one way or another, my family is reuniting." He turned his attention to Marco, who'd been kept alive for exactly this purpose. His cousin had helped destroy the Bratva's operations, had given Alessandro every piece of information requested. Now his usefulness was at an end. "You wanted to be Don," Alessandro said, entering the cell where Marco had been kept. "You wanted my power, my empire, my legacy. Here's what you failed to understand. Being Don isn't about the title. It's about being willing to destroy everything, including yourself, to protect what's yours." He pulled out his weapon. Marco didn't beg. At this point, death was mercy. "My wife is out there, powerful and alive despite everything you did," Alessandro continued. "My child is growing strong. The Bratva is decimated. My mother is exiled. Rosa is ruined. And you, Marco, you're the last piece of the betrayal. When you die, this chapter ends. And the next one begins with me on my knees, begging Valentina's forgiveness." "She'll never forgive you," Marco said. "You chose us over her." "I know," Alessandro replied, "but I'll spend eternity trying anyway." He fired 3 times. Marco died instantly. Alessandro called his soldiers to dispose of the body. then burned the warehouse where Marco had been kept. Ashes and scorched earth, leaving nothing behind but memory. That night he sat in the home he'd shared with Valentina, surrounded by the belongings she'd left behind. He'd forbidden anyone from touching her things, preserving the room like a shrine. Now he wrote a letter, not on a computer where it could be traced, but by hand on paper. Valentina, if you're reading this, my men found you. I want you to know what I've done in your name. I've destroyed everyone who hurt you. Marco is dead. The Bratva is broken. My mother is exiled. Dr. Russo paid for what he planned. I know it's not enough. I know I failed you when you needed me most. I believed lies because I was weak, because I let others poison my mind against the only person who ever loved me without wanting something in return. You've built power without me. You've become someone formidable. I'm proud of you and ashamed of myself in equal measure. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect you to come home. But know that everything I am, everything I have, belongs to you and our child. Always, your husband, Alessandro. He sealed the letter and gave it to Enzo. Find her. Give this to her personally. And tell her, his voice cracked for the first time since this nightmare began, tell her I'm sorry. Enzo took the letter and disappeared into the night. And Alessandro, the most feared mafia don in New York, waited for his wife's judgment like a man on death row. Chapter 7. Queen's Gambit. Valentina gave birth to a son in a private clinic in Boston, surrounded by Irish guards and her sister's fierce protection. No announcement, no celebration, just the quiet arrival of Dante Alessandro. Carter Moretti, 7 pounds and furious at the world. He has his father's rage, Mia observed, watching the baby scream. He has his mother's survival instinct, Valentina corrected, holding her son for the first time. The love was overwhelming, terrifying, transformative. Everything she'd done, every line she'd crossed, every piece of herself she'd hardened. It was all for this tiny, perfect human. Enzo found her 2 weeks later. She'd been expecting him. Alessandro's search had been getting closer, more desperate. It was only a matter of time. Signora Moretti, Enzo said, kneeling before her in the penthouse. Or should I call you Ghost? You can call me Val, she replied, rocking Dante. You saved my life. You earned the right. He handed her the letter. Your husband asked me to give you this. He's destroyed everyone who hurt you. The family is in ashes. He's rebuilt it with loyalty-tested soldiers, but he's, Enzo struggled for words, broken. A kingdom with no queen. Valentina read the letter once, twice, 3 times, Alessandro's handwriting shaky with emotion. His confession of failure, his catalog of vengeance, his abdication of power to her judgment. He thinks I need to forgive him, she murmured. Do you? Mia asked, entering with coffee. I don't know, Valentina admitted. He betrayed me by believing them. But they were his family, and they'd spent years poisoning him against the idea of me. When I really think about it, if someone had shown me evidence that Alessandro was unfaithful, doctored as it was, would I have believed them? You loved him enough to believe the best of him, Mia pointed out. And he loved me enough to grieve me when he thought I'd betrayed him. He didn't just move on. He mourned. Even while hating me, he mourned. Valentina looked at her son, seeing Alessandro's features in the tiny face. And he burned everything to the ground when he learned the truth. Marco, the Bratva, his own mother. He chose our child over his family legacy. So, you'll go back to him? Enzo asked, hopefully. I'll go back, Valentina confirmed, but not as the woman who left, not as the wife who needed protection and could be dismissed. I'm going back as Ghost, as someone who built power in exile and made alliances that extend beyond the Moretti name. I'm going back as his equal. She spent the next week preparing. Connor helped forge documents showing Ghost's holdings, businesses, properties, money, all technically owned by Valentina under various shells, all legitimate enough to survive scrutiny. You're really doing this, Mia said the night before Valentina left. Going back to the man who was lied to, who grieved me, who destroyed everyone responsible, Valentina finished. Yes, because I love him. But more importantly, because Dante deserves to know his father, and because Alessandro and I together are more powerful than either of us alone. And if he can't accept the woman you've become, then I leave with our son and my power intact, Valentina said. But I don't think that will happen. Alessandro fell in love with me because I was different, because I challenged him. He just never realized how much I could challenge him. Now he's about to find out. The next day, Valentina Carter Moretti returned to New York. Not in hiding, not afraid. She arrived in a motorcade of Irish guards, wearing designer black and carrying her infant son. The car pulled up to the Moretti compound at noon, when Alessandro would be in his office conducting business. His soldiers surrounded the vehicle immediately, weapons drawn. Then Enzo stepped out first, and the tension shifted. "Lower your weapons," Enzo commanded. "La Regina has returned." The Queen. The title rippled through the guards like electricity. They lowered their weapons and parted as Valentina emerged, Dante in her arms. She walked through the compound like she owned it, because she did. This was her home, her family, her legacy. The soldiers watched in awe as the woman they'd been told was a traitor strode past. Them with the confidence of someone who'd survived hell and come back stronger. Alessandro's office door was closed. Valentina didn't knock. She simply opened it and walked in. Her husband stood at his desk, reviewing papers. He looked up, and the world stopped. "Hello, Alessandro," Valentina said. "I believe we have some things to discuss." For a long moment, Alessandro just stared. At his wife, alive and powerful and holding their son. At the woman he'd mourned and searched for, and nearly destroyed his empire to avenge. Then he moved. He crossed the room in 3 strides, dropping to his knees before her. Not as a supplicant, but as a man who'd been brought low and knew it. "Valentina," he whispered, and her name on his lips was prayer and apology and desperate hope all at once. "Get up, Alessandro," she said softly. "Kings don't kneel." "They do," he replied, still on his knees. "When the queen they wronged returns." Chapter 8. The Kingdom Burns. Alessandro Moretti had faced down rival families, survived assassination attempts, and built an empire on blood and will. But nothing had prepared him for the sight of his wife holding their son, alive and powerful and utterly transformed. "Stand up," Valentina repeated. "We're equals now, or we're nothing." He rose slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "You became Ghost." "I became who I needed to be to survive," she corrected. "The woman you married still exists, but she's not the only woman I am anymore. If you can't accept that..." Alessandro kissed her. Desperate, reverent, fierce. When he pulled back, there were tears on his face. "I accept everything. I accept that I failed you. I accept that you built power without me. I accept that I spent 3 months believing you'd betrayed me when you were the only loyal one in my world." His voice broke. "I accept that I don't deserve you, but I'm begging you to stay anyway." Dante chose that moment to cry, breaking the intensity. Alessandro looked at his son for the first time, and Valentina watched her husband's expression transform into something she'd never seen before. Pure, overwhelming love mixed with desperate protectiveness. "Can I?" Alessandro asked, hesitant in a way he never was. Valentina transferred Dante to his father's arms. Alessandro held his son like he was made of glass and starlight, tears falling freely now. "Dante Alessandro," Valentina said, "named for your father, born in exile, and the reason I survived long enough to come back. I'll protect him," Alessandro swore. "Both of you." "I'll never..." "No," Valentina interrupted. "We protect each other. That's the new rule. You don't get to make decisions for me anymore, Alessandro. You don't get to keep me safe by keeping me ignorant. If we're going to do this, if we're going to be family again, it's as partners. Real partners. I know the business now. I have power now. I have alliances that extend beyond the Moretti name." "The Irish," Alessandro said, understanding dawning. "Connor Callahan. You've been working with them, learning from them, building bridges that will benefit both our families if we handle them right," Valentina confirmed. "I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you what's already done. The question is whether you can accept a wife who's as dangerous as you are." Alessandro stared at her for a long moment, his son in his arms, his wife before him, both alive when he'd thought he'd lost them. I fell in love with you because you were brave enough to love a monster. I stayed in love with you because you saw past the monster to the man. If you've become dangerous, it's because I forced you to be. And yes, Valentina, I can accept it. I can more than accept it. I'm in awe of it. Then, we need to make some things official, Valentina said. She pulled out documents prepared by Mia's lawyers. These are holdings I control. Businesses, properties, alliances. Some are legitimate, some aren't. All are mine. I'm bringing them into the Moretti family as my dowry, not because you own them, but because we're partners now. 50-50. Every decision made together. Alessandro read through the documents, his eyebrows rising with each page. You built this in 4 months? I had excellent motivation, Valentina replied. And good teachers? We need to deal with the family, Alessandro said, still holding Dante. Everyone needs to see you, to understand that you're not just back, you're untouchable. Then call a meeting, Valentina said. Tonight. Every capo, every soldier who matters. I want them all to see what happens when the Moretti family turns on its own. That evening, the compound's main hall filled with over 100 men. Soldiers, enforcers, captains, underbosses. They came expecting another purge, another display of Alessandro's wrath. What they got instead was Valentina. She entered through the main doors, flanked by Connor Callahan and 6 Irish guards. The Italian soldiers tensed, hands moving toward weapons, but Alessandro raised his hand from where he stood at the head of the room. Anyone who draws on my wife dies, he said simply. The hands moved away from guns. Valentina walked the length of the hall like she was walking a runway, her heels clicking on marble, her presence commanding absolute attention. She dressed for war, black suit, no jewelry except her wedding ring. Hair pulled back to show the face that had grown harder in exile. She took her place beside Alessandro, equal height on the raised platform, and looked out at the assembled family. Most of you were told I was a traitor, Valentina began, her voice carrying through the silent hall. That I stole money, betrayed your Don, ran away with a lover. Some of you believed it, some of you helped spread the lies, and some of you, her gaze found specific faces, knew the truth and said nothing. She laid out the conspiracy methodically. Marco's betrayal, Carmela's involvement, Rosa's false pregnancy. The attempted murder, the forced abortion, the orders to dump her body in the river. With each revelation, the men in the hall grew more uncomfortable, realizing they'd been complicit in an attempted regicide. My husband destroyed everyone directly responsible, Valentina continued. Marco is dead. The Bratva is broken. Carmela is exiled. But the rot went deeper than 3 people. It went into the culture of this family, the belief that an American wife was disposable. That tradition mattered more than loyalty. That blood meant more than truth. She pulled out a folder, began reading names. Antonio Greco, you told Alessandro I was seen with another man. It was a lie. Salvatore Benedetti, you helped doctor the financial records to make it look like I'd stolen money. Giovanni Russo, you're Dr. Russo's brother, and you knew what he was planning. The named men stood frozen as Valentina's Irish guards moved to surround them. You have a choice, Valentina said. Exile like Carmela. Leave with your lives, but nothing else. Or stay, swear loyalty to me as your Don's wife and equal partner, and spend the rest of your lives proving you've learned that betraying this family has consequences. You can't, Giovanni started. Alessandro's gun appeared in his hand, pressed to Giovanni's temple. My wife just gave you options. I'm not as generous. Choose now, or I choose for you. All 3 men dropped to their knees, swearing loyalty. Valentina accepted their oaths with cold grace, knowing they'd be watched. For the rest of their lives, knowing they'd never be trusted again. But she'd made her point. The rest of you, she addressed the hall, you followed orders. You believed what you were told. I don't hold that against you. But understand this. I'm not the woman who left. I'm not the sheltered wife who could be lied to and eliminated. I am Ghost, and I have alliances that extend beyond these walls. I have power that doesn't depend on my husband's name. And I will use that power to protect this family, all of it, even the parts I don't like, because that's what queens do. She pulled out the documents she'd shown Alessandro earlier. These are my holdings. Businesses, territories, connections with Irish Polish and Chinese families. I'm bringing them into the Moretti Empire as a partner, not a subordinate. Which means you all have a new reality. This family is run by two people now. Alessandro and Valentina, the Don and La Regina. Equal in power, equal in authority. Any questions? Alessandro asked, his tone making it clear there better not be. Silence. Then, from the back, Enzo stepped forward. The older man who'd saved Valentina's life knelt, not to Alessandro, but to her. La Regina, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I swear my loyalty, my life, my blood. One by one, the soldiers in the hall knelt. Not out of fear, Valentina realized, but out of respect. She'd survived their betrayal, built power in exile, and returned not for revenge, but for family. She'd earned their loyalty in a way Carmela never had. Rise, Valentina said softly. All of you. We have work to do. The meeting transformed into a war council. Valentina laid out her connections, the alliances she'd built. Alessandro added his resources, his territories. Together, they began reshaping the Moretti Empire into something stronger, a family that could work with other organizations instead of only against them, that valued loyalty and truth over tradition and blood. Connor Callahan, still standing guard, caught Valentina's eye and nodded. The Irish had gained a powerful ally in the Morettis. The Italians had gained access to Irish networks. Everyone won. There's one more thing, Alessandro said when the strategic planning was done. He pulled out a small box, opened it to reveal a new ring. Emerald and diamond, more beautiful than anything he'd given her before. I want to renew our vows, in front of everyone. Not because the first ones weren't real, but because we're different people now. I want to marry the woman you've become. Not just remember the woman you were. Valentina looked at the ring, at her husband, at the family assembled before them. Yes, she said. But on one condition, anything, Alessandro swore. Dante comes to the ceremony. Our son sees his parents make promises they'll keep. No secrets, no lies, no betrayals, just truth. Done, Alessandro agreed. He slipped the ring on her finger beside her original wedding band. 2 rings for 2 lives. Both of them yours. The ceremony was held 3 days later in the compound's chapel. No guests outside the family, no press, no spectacle. Just Alessandro and Valentina, exchanging vows while Enzo held baby Dante, while the soldiers, who'd once believed she was a traitor, watched her become their queen in truth. I promise to trust you, Alessandro said, his voice raw, to never believe lies over your truth. To treat you as my equal in all things. To let you be dangerous, powerful, fierce. To love the woman you are. Not the woman I tried to keep you as. I promise to forgive you, Valentina replied, tears streaming down her face. To build this empire with you, not just beside you. To protect our family with everything I've become. To love you even when it's hard, even when you fail, even when the world burns down around us. When they kissed, the family erupted in applause. Not the polite clapping of obligation, but genuine celebration. Their Don had his queen back. The kingdom was whole again. That night, alone in their bedroom with Dante asleep in his crib, Alessandro held Valentina like she might disappear again. I was so afraid, he whispered against her hair. Every day you were gone. I was afraid I'd lost you forever. You almost did, Valentina admitted. There were moments in Boston when I thought about just staying, raising Dante alone, never coming back. But I realized something. What? That I didn't just fall in love with you. I fell in love with the life we could build together. Not the life you gave me, but the life we create as equals. And that was worth fighting for. I don't deserve you, Alessandro said. No, Valentina agreed. But you'll spend the rest of your life earning me anyway. That's the deal. He laughed, the sound broken and beautiful. Best deal I ever made. Chapter 9. From Ashes, a Kingdom. 3 months after Valentina's return, the Moretti compound had transformed. The old guard who'd supported Carmela's traditionalism were gone, replaced by soldiers who'd proven their loyalty through the crisis. The family's operations had expanded through Valentina's Irish connections, creating unprecedented prosperity. And at the center of it all sat Alessandro and Valentina, ruling together. Dante's christening was scheduled for a Sunday in October, the first major family event since the reunification. Every allied family received invitations, not just Italian but Irish, Polish even. Some Russian factions who'd broken from the Bratva after Alessandro's purge. "You're sure about this?" Alessandro asked, watching Valentina dress for the ceremony. "Inviting everyone. Making Dante so public." "I'm sure," Valentina replied, fastening diamond earrings. "Gifts from Connor Callahan, a statement of Irish-Italian alliance. Hiding him keeps him vulnerable. But if everyone sees him, sees us united, sees the family we've built, he becomes untouchable. No one attacks the heir when the kingdom is this strong." The church was packed. Over 300 guests, representing the full spectrum of New York's criminal underworld. They came to see the miracle baby, the child who'd survived conspiracy and exile, whose parents had burned down kingdoms to protect him. Valentina carried Dante down the aisle, Alessandro at her side. Her son wore a christening gown that had been in the Moretti family for generations, the one tradition Valentina had chosen to honor because some things were worth preserving. The priest performed the ceremony in Latin and English, blessing Dante in both languages. Connor Callahan stood as godfather, a political choice that cemented the Irish-Italian alliance. Mia stood as godmother, representing Valentina's blood family and her connection to the life she'd built in exile. When it was time for the vows, Alessandro stepped forward to address the assembled crowd. 3 months ago, he began, "I stood in this church having lost everything that mattered. My wife was gone, my child was gone, my family was rotted with betrayal. I'd built an empire on blood and will, but none of it meant anything without the people I loved." He looked at Valentina, at Dante sleeping in her arms. "My wife survived what should have killed her. She built power in exile. She came back not for revenge, but for family. She forgave me when I didn't deserve it. And she changed this organization into something stronger than it's ever been. Today, we baptize our son into a family that values loyalty over tradition, truth over blood, partnership over dominance." He pulled out a document, held it up for everyone to see. "This is my will, updated and witnessed. If anything happens to me, everything I own, every business, every territory, every dollar, goes to Valentina. Not as a caretaker for Dante, but as the rightful heir to the Moretti Empire. She's not just my wife. She's my equal, my partner, and the strongest person I've ever known." The crowd murmured, shocked. In traditional Mafia families, power passed through male lines. Alessandro was breaking centuries of precedent. "And if something happens to both of us," Alessandro continued, "the empire is held in trust. For Dante, with Connor Callahan and Mia Carter as trustees until he comes of age. Because family isn't just blood, it's the people who prove they'll die before they betray you." He turned to face the assembled families, his voice hardening. "I want to be very clear about something. My wife was targeted once by people who thought she was weak, disposable, unworthy of protection. Those people are dead or exiled. But in case anyone else has similar thoughts, let me explain the new reality." Alessandro's soldiers moved to strategic positions throughout the church, a subtle but unmistakable display of force. "Valentina Moretti is untouchable. My son is untouchable. Anyone who threatens them doesn't just answer to me. They answer to the Irish, to the Polish, to every family that's allied with us. I will burn your organizations to ash. I will erase your names from history. I will make you watch everything you love die before I finally let you join it." The silence in the church was absolute. This wasn't bravado or empty threat. Everyone present had heard what Alessandro did to Marco, to the Bratva, to his own mother. They knew he meant every word. But Alessandro's voice softened. "If you're loyal, if you honor the alliances we're building, if you treat my family with the respect they deserve, then you have the full power of the Moretti Empire behind you. We protect our own. Always." He stepped back, and Valentina moved forward, Dante now awake and watching the crowd with solemn eyes. "I know some of you think I'm too soft for this world," Valentina said, "that I'm an outsider, an American someone who doesn't understand tradition. And 3 months ago, you would have been right. But I've learned. I've learned that survival requires strength, that protection requires power, that love, in this world, looks like blood and fire. She handed Dante to Alessandro, letting her husband hold their son while she addressed the crowd alone. I've also learned that change is possible, that families can evolve, that the old ways, treating women as property, valuing blood over loyalty, keeping power through fear alone, those ways are dying. The families that survive the next decade will be the ones that adapt. She gestured to the diverse crowd. Look around. Italian, Irish, Polish, Russian, Chinese. We're building something new. Not because we're weak, but because we're smart. Because wars are expensive and alliances are profitable. Because the next generation, Dante's generation, deserves better than the cycles of violence that defined ours. But make no mistake, Valentina's voice went cold. I'm not advocating peace out of weakness. I'm advocating strategic alliance from a position of strength. And if anyone tests that strength, if anyone threatens my family or our partners, well, she smiled, and it was terrifying. They'll discover exactly how much I learned during my exile. The crowd erupted in applause. Not just the Italians, but every family present. Valentina had just redefined what it meant to be a mafia wife, and everyone knew they were witnessing history. After the ceremony, the reception transformed into a political summit. Valentina brokered deals, negotiated territories, and built bridges between families that had been enemies for generations. Alessandro watched his wife work with a mixture of pride and awe. She's terrifying, Connor said, appearing beside Alessandro with whiskey. And I mean that as the highest compliment. She survived my family trying to kill her and came back stronger, Alessandro replied. Terrifying doesn't begin to cover it. You know the other families are going to try to copy this, right? Giving their wives real power. Your precedent is going to change the entire structure of our world. Good, Alessandro said. Maybe if more men treated their wives as partners instead of property, there'd be fewer betrayals. Maybe if more families valued loyalty over tradition, they'd be stronger. He watched Valentina laugh at something Mia said. Watched her hold Dante while simultaneously negotiating a shipping contract with a Polish captain. Watched her move through the crowd like she'd been born to this. I was so stupid, Alessandro murmured. I had the strongest, smartest, most loyal person in my life, and I kept her in a cage. I called it protection, but it was control. I almost lost everything because I was too arrogant to see what she could be. But you learned, Connor pointed out. And you changed. That's worth something. It's worth everything, Alessandro corrected. He crossed the room to his wife, interrupted her conversation with a Polish underboss. Dance with me. Valentina raised an eyebrow. We're in the middle of negotiating. Dance with me anyway, Alessandro insisted. Let them see us. Let them understand what it looks like when a kingdom has two rulers who actually love each other. She handed Dante to Mia and took Alessandro's hand. They moved to the center of the room, and the music shifted to something slow and romantic. As they danced, the entire reception watched, 300 of the most dangerous people in New York, witnessing something rare and precious. I love you, Alessandro whispered. I love who you were, who you are, who you're becoming. I love that you're fierce and dangerous and exactly as ruthless as I am. I love that our son will grow up seeing his mother as powerful as his father. I love you too, Valentina replied. Even when you fail me. Even when you're stupidly overprotective. Even when your family is a nightmare. I love you enough to burn the world down if anyone tries to take you from me. We're both insane, Alessandro observed. Probably, Valentina agreed. But we're insane together. That's what matters. The song ended, but they kept dancing, lost in each other while their empire watched and understood. The Moretti family had been reborn from ashes, stronger and more dangerous than ever before. Later that night, after the guests had left and Dante was asleep, Alessandro and Valentina stood on their balcony overlooking the compound. The city sparkled in the distance, full of territories they controlled and alliances they'd built. Do you ever regret it? Alessandro asked. Coming back. You could have stayed in Boston, built your own empire separate from mine. You could have raised Dante away from this violence. No, Valentina said simply. This is our kingdom, Dante's inheritance. I'm not running from it. I'm reshaping it into something worthy of him, something that values strength and strategy over brutality and tradition, something that proves you can be powerful without being monstrous. We're still pretty monstrous, Alessandro pointed out. Yes, Valentina agreed. But we're monstrous with purpose now. And we're monsters together. Alessandro pulled her close, breathing in her scent, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. 6 months ago, he'd lost her. 4 months ago, he'd thought she was dead or beyond forgiveness. Now she stood beside him, wearing his ring and her power with equal grace, having transformed his empire into something neither of them could have built alone. Thank you, he whispered. For what? Valentina asked. For surviving, for coming back, for forgiving me, for being stronger than I ever gave you credit for teaching me what partnership actually means, for giving me a son, his voice broke, for everything. You would have done the same, Valentina said. I would have burned the world, Alessandro confirmed. But you did something harder. You rebuilt it. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching their kingdom settle into night. In his crib inside, Dante slept peacefully, protected by parents who'd proven they'd destroy anything that threatened him. The Moretti Empire stretched out before them. Territories, businesses, alliances, all built. On the foundation of two people who'd survived betrayal and chosen love anyway. What happens now? Valentina asked. Now, Alessandro said, we rule. Together. We raise our son to be strong and strategic and better than we are. We build alliances that make the family untouchable. We change the rules of this world until women like you never have to fear being seen as disposable. And if anyone tries to stop us, we burn them to ash, Valentina finished, like we did everyone else who underestimated us. Exactly, Alessandro agreed. From ashes, we built a kingdom. And that kingdom will stand for generations. He was right. The Moretti-Carter Empire, built on equal partnership and fierce loyalty, would become the model for criminal organizations across the country. Dante would grow up watching his parents rule as equals, learning that true power comes from trust and love, not domination and fear. And decades later, when he took his father's place, he would remember the story of how his mother survived betrayal and became a queen, and he would ensure no woman in his family ever faced that choice again. But that was the future. Tonight, Alessandro and Valentina Moretti stood together in their rebuilt kingdom, survivors, and partners, and proof that sometimes love is the most dangerous weapon of all. Thank you so much for sticking around and showing me so much love and support. You have no idea how much it means to me. If this story resonated with you, then hit that subscribe and like button right now.